Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video we're going to be customizing IceWM. So anyone who's following along with the series, we have these virtual machines. You might have one, I've got a number of them. So this one here is the one I'm using to try things out with. So if I show you where we are at with the clone guest, and this is where we hope to get to by the end of this session. I'm going to boot into that virtual machine. So I'll exit full screen. So I'm a big fan of Belinda Carlisle, so that's why we've got the Belinda Carlisle wallpaper. Essentially, we've got IceWM, and we can set different themes. So if I wanted a Windows 98 theme, I could just do that. I could set a theme for Windows 2000. And there's other themes as well. So I'll show you how you can install your own themes. Here's an interesting one. I'll show you how to set your own themes, how to edit the menus, how to change preferences and things like that. And there'll be a couple of other examples along the way as well. How to extract tar files, where to get new themes from, things like that. So this session's all about IceWM, so let's get started. So this would be the Debian that you'd have at this moment in time if you've been following along. So if we start this hasn't got any of the extra theming or anything like that on it. We're currently at the stage of the default IceWM installed. So I'm going to go full screen, and I'm going to open a terminal. And if I do an ls -al, what we're looking for is an IceWM folder. I'll do a more on it, and you see there isn't one. So under user share there is an IceWM folder, and that's got all the files that make up this window manager at this moment in time. So if you want to customize your IceWM, what you need is that folder under your home folder. So we're going to go back to the home folder, and we're going to make the .icewm. You want it to have the dot. The dot makes it a hidden folder. And then we're going to cd into .icewm. So we're going to do sudo copy user share IceWM. You need a -r on this actually, so put that at the front. Star, and then we're going to do that to dot. ls now, you can see we've got all the folders and files for IceWM in this folder. So in the previous episode we installed an application called LeafPad. We're going to use that for viewing files rather than Nano. And we're going to start with the menu. So if we right click, you can see you've got all these menu options here. So if we LeafPad on the menu, and I'm going to make it slightly bigger, you can see that we've got this prog command here, and basically the prog command tells you which program to run for a menu option. So you can see terminal, and then we've got one for web browser, which is there, and then we've got one for HexChat and GIMP, but we haven't got those installed, so they're not appearing on the menu. But if I install HexChat, I'm going to open up another terminal so we can do that, because I've opened up LeafPad in foreground mode. So if I do sudo apt install HexChat, and if I now type IceWM-R, you can see hex chat now appears in the menu. The same would happen if I install GIMP. So if I put a program here and it doesn't exist, it's not going to appear in this menu. But if I do put a program here that does exist, then it will add it to the menu. You'll see that you've got all these lines with the hash in front of them. That means they're commented out. So we haven't got an applications folder. We haven't got mail agents in that format. What we do is if we scroll to the bottom here, you'll see there's this thing called include prog IceWM menu fdo. So that covers this section between hex chat and monitors. So if I comment that out and save it, I need to open the file as sudo. So whilst we're here, we'll do sudo leafpad menu, and if you put ampersand on it, it runs it in the background, so you get basically back to your terminal, so you don't actually need this window up here open anymore. So if I scroll back to the bottom and I put a hash there, and I save it, I can do IceWM-R, and I right click, and you'll see that that section of the menu disappears. Now that's not overly useful, because what this include prog is doing is including all your programs. So for instance, under utility, it's got leafpad, bulk rename, it's got your terminal emulator, your Thuna file manager. So every time you add a program, it's going to come into here automatically. So if you turn off this include prog, then this menu is never going to populate itself. But if you don't like this menu structure, what you can do is say I wanted to reload this IceWM without having to type this command in each time. For instance, I could undo this system folder here. We don't need those. We can restart IceWM there. We need to close that and that. So now when I save, and if I run the IceWM now, we should have a system folder up here. Window managers IceWM. So that's going to do the same as the reset. So you can add your own menus in this fashion. Basically, you could put a program in here, for instance. So I could put prog hex chat, and you see it appears under the system folder, and there it is. So you might be wondering, why is the same thing listed 3 times? Well, in this case, hex chat up here, if I right click, you'll see hex chat's in capital letters. So I could call this my chat if I wanted to, and you can see that's the title. So the first one's the title, the second one is the icon, and the third one is the actual name of the program. So using this knowledge, you could leave the menu system as it is, and know that every time you install a program, it's going to come into one of these categories in the middle here. Or you can build up the menu system the way you want it to be built up, by adding your own sections in. You'll see that there's other sections down here, so there's monitors, and there's toolbar. So if you look at the toolbar here, you'll see xterm and www, and that's this and this down here. And that picks its options from a folder So menu file, toolbar, folder, toolbar. So let's go back into this up here. So if I go into you'll see that there is a toolbar file. And you'll see at the moment there's Xterm, FTE, Netscape, Vim. So all these will appear along here as long as they exist. If they've got a hash in front of them, that means that it's commented out, so it's not going to appear here. So what we could put, if we wanted, we could do prog hexchat, hexchat, hexchat. Save that. Again, got the same problem as we did before. You have to sudo the file. And we'll you'll see there's now another icon here, so if I click that, you get hexchat up. Now, if you put in the correct folder path to where the actual icon is and give the proper icon name, then it will produce a little icon here. That's why you get one for the web browser, but you don't get one for the Xterm or for hexchat. So I'm going to take that off of there, comment it out. I'm going to comment GIMP out as well. And I'm going to remove this system folder here, and I'm going to place it underneath the one down there. So that it's under there. But what we could also do is actually just call it, we could just call this IceWM, and we can get rid of this inner one. So we can just say restart. So I've called it, so what it's going to do is restart, and the title of it's going to be called restart, and it's just going to say IceWM, so just like that, so you don't have a big long menu to go into. Now it's up to you how you format your menu. By default we're going to leave it like this for a moment. At some later stage I might, once we've got more applications installed, we might format this a bit better so it doesn't have these submenus like this. We can just create our own menus. So the next file I want to talk about is the preferences file. So if we do sudo leafpad preferences, I'll put the ampersand at the end so it starts in the background. So this is a great big long file of IceWM preferences. So if you want any of these to become active, then you have to remove the ampersand. And there's so many settings in here, it's too many to go through, but just know that these preferences are here, so it's worth having a look through to see what they all are. I will highlight some of the most important ones. IceWM has a lot of keyboard shortcuts that you can use, and you can set more by uncommenting these out. Alt-Shift F5 by default rearranges your windows. Alt-Shift F4 cascades them like that. So even whether they're commented in or out, these are the default options. But you can force those to be different keystrokes if you wanted. So Alt Control H hides the taskbar at the bottom, and you can use that to bring it back again. Alt Control and D shows your desktop, and you've got all these keystrokes you can use. So by default, when you right click, you've got this logout menu here. So say you didn't want that logout menu, you could set that to 0. And if we restart our IceWM, you can see that menu disappears. If you want it back again, you set it back, restart again, and then it's back. Similarly, you've got this show programs menu equals 1. So that's this thing here. I set it to 0. You can see that disappears. Now what I'm going to say is not all the menu options appear obvious what they do. So I've opened this one up, show themes menu equals 1. I believe that's this option here. If I make that 0, we can see if that truly is the case. It is the case. Now the comment here isn't very useful because it says show theme submenu in the program menu. Now for me, is that the program menu? This is the settings menu. So down, so there's some taskbar settings as well that you can change. You've got these net statuses that you can turn on or off. You've got the start menu itself that you can turn on or off. You can choose whether to show the tray or not. Choose whether you want the menu. You can choose whether you show the workspaces 1, 2, 3 and 4. You can set the taskbar width. As you see, it's made it smaller. And you choose whether the where the taskbar is, so we can make that centered if we want to. I'm going to put that to 100. By default, you can see there are 4 workspaces. We can actually have a 5th one if we wanted to. Now the things down below are preferences that are handled by different themes, and we'll get to that later on. So if you want to adjust these, you put them in a file called pref override. For instance, we've got the background image here, desktop background image that we can set to a image. So have we got any images? So what you can do if you've got some wallpapers already on your computer, on your main computer here, we can share them. So we're going to do devices, shared folders settings, and under machine folder you click plus and you find the path to where things you want are. So I've got a wallpapers folder here. I can open that. I can make it read only. I can make it auto mount. I can make it permanent if I want to. And you can specify the mount point. So now if I bring up my Tuna file manager, you can see I've got this wallpapers folder, and you'll see if I try and go into there, it's going to come up with an error. Permission denied. So what we have to do is, in another terminal window here, what we're going to do is sudo add user Gary Gbox SF, I will need to log out and log back in again. And now you see I've got these pictures here, and I can copy them and I can put them in my pictures folder, and I create a folder called wallpaper, and I'm going to paste those into there. And now we'll go back to full screen again. If we open a terminal and we go into IceWM and we pad into our preferences file, we scroll all the way to the bottom and we untag this, and then we can do home, gallery, pictures, wallpaper, and we can pick one of the images. So if I do image 1.jpg, you can see nothing's happened at this point in time. So if we open up another terminal and we go into IceWM again and we do ref override, what we can do is we can take all of this downwards, you can paste this into here, and now when we hit save, and if you right click and you go to settings, themes, default, it will load that in. Talking about themes, if I go to settings, themes, I can choose any one of these themes here. So if I go Windows 95, you can see it does that. It's done something bad to my wallpaper. I can choose another theme, nano blue, and you can see it's keeping the wallpaper because of that pref override. But each time the colours of the menus change every time I change a theme. So I can choose Helix, for instance. I'm not sure why it does that to the pictures. I assume there's something in the theme file that's doing that. And you see there, you get a different look and feel for each theme that you choose. If you want help with the Ice Window Manager, under help you've got these manuals here, and this is basically what I've been using to try and understand my way around this. And it's got all the information you need about menu, toolbars, program, hotkeys, etc. So everything you need is actually installed as part of IceWM. If you want to get new themes, just Google IceWM themes, and there's a site called boxlook.org. And as long as you have it selected on IceWM themes here, you'll see it will come up with a list of themes, and you can do it by latest or by rating. So one I had earlier was this spoof theme. So if you want to install a theme, what you do is you go into, you click on it, and then you click download. It's got a delay on it. I think it's to stop bots just continuously hammering the servers. So that'll be in your downloads folder now. So if we minimize this and we open a terminal and we go into downloads, you'll see it's in the form of tar.gz. So first thing we need to do is extract that. And the way we do that is sudo tar -xzvf and the name of the file. It is case sensitive, so it has to be exactly as it's shown on the screen. Type in the password. And if you do ls now, you'll see there's a spoof folder, and what we want to do is if we go to we go into the themes folder, well, you can copy home gallery downloads spoof to dot, but you'll need a -r after the copy. And it said permission denied, so we need sudo bang bang to run the previous command. And you'll see spoofs now in there. If I right click on the desktop, I can go to settings, I can go to themes, and spoof is there. And when I click that, it's now got the spoof layout. Now you'll notice that it didn't change the wallpaper to the spoof one. And that's because of the override. So if I rename pref override to gallery pref override, and now I select the spoof theme, you can see it changes the background to the background for the spoof. So that's the importance of the pref override. So if I want my wallpaper back, you see it sets it to my wallpaper. So the pref override script has all your settings that you want regardless of other theming. If we go into the themes folder and we go into spoof, for instance, you'll see the files that are in there, and so you'll see that there's a desktop.png file. All the XPMs are for theming, but if we look at the desktop.theme, the default.theme, you'll see it's all sort of settings for this theme. And so the desktop background image is wallpaper.jpg by default. So that's why these settings override the ones in the... If you didn't have the pref override, it would use these settings. So you saw earlier I had a Windows 2000 theme. All I did was this, downloaded the theme like this. It's a tiny file, and then we'll close this down, make it smaller, and we'll cd downloads folder here, and we'll tar -xzbf into k.tar.gz, and then we'll go back to our themes folder, so copy -r, and now if I go to themes, I should have the Win2K theme, and you can see it's got the Windows 2000 style menus. So to get the theme to look correct, what I've done is I've changed this background scale to =1 in my pref override. So using that option again, I can now go image 1, and you can see now that by adding the scaling in, it doesn't matter which one of these I now go for, it's going to keep the background scaled to the correct value. So I've opened up another terminal window. There's a couple more things I want to show you. So when you select a theme from this menu here, if you open up the theme file within your IceWM folder, you can see this is the theme that's being used, and you can comment that out and then you can type in the theme that you want. So I could make Win 2000 a theme again just by uncommenting it, and then IceWM SR, and you see it's gone to the Windows 2000 theme again. So you don't have to use this menu in system to change the themes, you can use the command line. So what about this programs option here? As you can see, it's empty. What is that? So if we look in our IceWM folder, you'll see there is a file called programs sitting here. So if we do sudo leafpad programs, you can see again it's another menu file that you can use. So what I could do is I could put prog hexchat again in here, and you'll see hexchat now appears under that programs menu. So that's all that option does really, is it allows you to build another menu under this programs thing. So how you define your menus is totally up to you. You can use the menu file, you can choose whether to have this section displayed or not, you can choose whether to have monitors, you can build this menu up to be exactly what you want it to be. It's just a little bit convoluted that there's different files for different sections of it. So programs is this file all on its own, and you can see it says this file is intended to be customized by distributions. It's mostly obsolete, fix me, but it's still there. And that's really all I wanted to talk about today. That is how to customize the Ice Window Manager, and you can do this how you see fit. I like IceWM because of the memory usage. You can see that I'm currently using 762 megabytes of memory, and I've got a browser window open. So if I close the browser window, I'm now only using 363 megabytes of RAM from a 4 gigabyte possible RAM usage. So this means that my desktop environment or my window manager is staying out of the way, which means I've got more memory to run applications, more CPU to run applications. The CPU load is absolutely nothing. So I highly recommend using a window manager if you can comfortably get used to it over using a bloated desktop environment like GNOME or KDE. For one thing, you use KDE, if you want the menu you have to click down at the bottom here, or if it's at the top you have to click at the top. On these window managers you just right click, there they are, there's the menu. Now obviously this menu system doesn't look great, but you've got the ability to customize it to look the way you want it to look. And that's all I've got time for today. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.